Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Multicloud Mindset. I'm excited to share that we are back here today with an episode about learning and how you can continue to improve your skills as a multi-cloud professional. We have with us today Linda Moss. She is the Director of Cloud Learning Services at Google Cloud. Linda, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing this morning?
I am great. Hey, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, Linda. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Google Cloud.
Well, again, thanks for the invite here. I'm a virgin at these podcasts, and so very excited about the time together this morning. So, as Shubhika said, my name's Linda Moss. From my accent, I'm a Brit, originally from Wales, and living here in the San Francisco Bay Area of the US. And I'm director of the Cloud Learning Services at Google Cloud. So I've been at Google for about 3 years coming up. Proud to lead a phenomenal team of learning individuals who create, develop, and deliver learning and credentialing certification programs for our learners, who actually our learners are our customers, our partners, Googlers, as well as developers out there in the broad market and what we call current and future technologists.
That sounds exciting, Linda. Now, as the director of Google Cloud Learning, what are some of the top areas that your organization has identified as being critical from, learning perspective for cloud professionals? I know that there are a lot of cloud professionals on this call today and many more who will listen to this Twitter space on demand later. So, what are some of the top priority areas for your organization?
That's great, and a great question. And I think, first of all, for any of us working in cloud, right, whether we're technologists out there or whether we're learning people, putting together programs here, being current, staying current is really critical, I think, to our credibility in learning and also people out there, working in this space. So the first thing that, we've always got to be focused on is ensuring when it comes to our technology, top of our game. Our curriculum is dated. We're looking at, what new features are coming out, what are the new add-ons to existing technology, as well as new technology that's obviously coming out. So I think staying current in, which is hard, right? Such a dynamic space. It's almost this continuous learning that we've all got to put ourselves through, right? And accept as part of our day-to-day reality. Whereas, whether it's those of us that are creating learning programs or people on the call that are working in this space and, looking at how to stay current and up with the latest and greatest. Top of mind, as you can imagine, for us at the moment, the last 6 months, Gen AI, right? That's just been so important in all spaces and certainly in cloud as well. So that's kind of some of the things that we're focused on, first of all, as we think of this space. Secondly, another thing that I think that we are prioritizing is also, understanding that people are maturing in this business. A lot of the programs we had originally, Shubhika, were more foundational introduction to, particularly with Google Cloud, a lot of introduction to the various technologies that we have. But, as the industry's matured, as we've matured, as practitioners matured, we've really got to think as well about, again, expanding skill set. So for us, it's important that it's learning beyond certification, learning beyond the foundational stuff to work on more complex, right, intermediate and advanced areas. And so, one of the audiences I focus on a lot in my job is our partners here at Google. And so, making sure that they've got learning far beyond the foundational element that, that we offer. I think, the third, because I've probably got about 3 to 5 that I would say are critical here. A big one is what we do, and I hope this resonates with, people on the call as well. as we look at the learning programs we're putting together, is really thinking about meeting the learner where they are, right? Not everybody is at the same space or page or wants the same thing when it comes to learning. Right, there's a lot of people that are new, great, and they can start with more of these traditional programs. But then more and more, there's people that, just want, what is the net new that I have to learn? Or I've worked in our cases, right? I've worked in one cloud. I don't want all that stuff. Just tell me what's new that I should be thinking of as I move. For example, I know AWS, but now I want to learn a little bit more about, Google's way of doing things. So that's another thing that we've been thinking of. How can we meet the learner where they are? Focusing on specifically what they need, because different people need different things, right? Both in content and topic, as well as how we deliver it. So as we've said, a lot of our practitioners, don't give me the whole lot. I haven't got 40 hours. I just need to know what's different, right? So introduce me some micro learning modules that I can just capture that. We do a lot with students. Students will say, I want to have fun with learning, so gamify it for me, right? And those kind of things. So it really is, I think, stepping back for us in learning to making sure that we're helping, just all our learners wherever they are in their learning journeys. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think you're really right on how the technology is evolving at the speed of light, right? If we just look at the last 10, 15 years, we have evolved from hyperconvergence to cloud to all
Yeah.
these amazing things that you can do on cloud now with data, AI, ML. So it's changing. The landscape is constantly changing. So learning needs to keep changing as well. And
Exactly. And the one bit that I'd add to what we think, and I'm sure, like I said, on these kind of calls where we have a lot of practitioners, we're also very passionate about how people learn, right? We don't want to bore them to death with long modules of learning, right? Importantly, yes, we need to ensure that we're kind of sharing the why and the what, but also important for us is more, how do you apply learning? And so that's what we really pride ourselves on when it comes to learning in all these areas, right? To me, application of learning is critical. And this is where whatever we do, we're trying to embed the opportunity for people to practice and have hands-on labs, right, in all of these pieces as well. Because this knowledge transfer is one thing, right? But there's also, can I apply it? Can I do it? And so again, in all our learning programs, we want to have the opportunity to, give the chance to practice, try it out in a safe environment before you're doing it in the real world type of thing.
absolutely. So, Linda, tell us a little bit about the learning process itself. What is a skill badge and a digital badge and any other things that are relevant in that line of thought? And how can someone earn those?
Yeah, great question. And this comes back to my comments on the labs and things. So when we think about learning, we do know people want to understand a little bit. And so, we start with explaining. So there's things like sharing knowledge, what this is, information, how things work, what is the concepts, those kind of things. So learning to know, to understand is a good place to start. But it needs to be followed by learning to do. And it's great to say, can I do it, right? A way of validating that you have the knowledge and can apply it. And that's where we think about these digital badges, right? So to explain specifically, right, a Google Cloud Skill Badge is actually a digital badge. It's issued by us at Google Cloud, right, in recognition of somebody's proficiency or ability to do something with Google Cloud's products and services. And the way that you complete a badge or earn a skill badge is by completing a series of hands-on labs and taking some kind of assessment, that often in the form of a challenge lab, right, to test a learner's skill. And so that's what we mean by a skill badge. It usually is an application of learning, right, in the form of a lab, but it isn't what I call a learning lab whereby it says type in this, do that, then do something else. It's in the form of a challenge lab. So we give you a scenario. We ask you to do something. We provide the environment on what to do it, which is our Google Cloud Skill Boost learning partner, a platform, sorry. And then you can do it. You can either do it or you can't, right? And that's where if you can do it and you successfully complete that, then you're issued one of these digital badges, or what we call a skill badge. So it's a really lovely way, I think, for an individual to both, have that feeling, wow, I can do it, completing successfully. And because it's a badge that now, you can take and highlight, it also is a way of validating to others that you have this ability as well.
Got it. So you identified multi-cloud as one of the top areas of investment for your team. I think you wrote a really nice blog as well a little while ago, which we'll post to this Twitter space for our audience to read through. What is the reason? What are some of the trends that you're observing with the cloud customers that led you to focus on multi-cloud? Just want to hear your thoughts on this. And I know that the world is becoming more and more multi-cloud. We have the data that shows us, right, among the enterprises, the adoption numbers are really off the charts. It's almost like it's the new way of doing things.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, Shubhika, on this. It's definitely, as you say, we can see the trends. We read this, and really it's all being driven, right, by enterprises. And a majority of businesses are talking about either doing it currently, and all of the research that I've seen, right, has been in the high 80s or 90% of organizations that say they're adopting a multi-cloud strategy, or they're positioning it as one of their key strategies for their organization. Either now, investing currently, or looking forward to that. So it really is being driven by enterprises and organizations. I think for many of them, they feel it provides them with more, flexibility, reliability. It supports that idea that, different suppliers have different strengths. And it makes good business sense, really, to leverage these different strengths of the providers. So that's why, I think it's being driven by businesses. And, I think that's what's key for many of us, certainly us in learning and practitioners listening into this. It's definitely, becoming clear that employers need individuals then. If that is the strategy, a multi-cloud strategy, that employers need individuals with the necessary skills, right, to be able to translate, be able to leverage, migrate, or manage all that requires to a multi-cloud environment.
Yep, that totally makes sense. That's what we are hearing from our customers as well. That it's something that you cannot avoid anymore. Like there were reasons to, there was some friction initially, which made sense, but now it's you have to find a way to make it work.
Yes.
So for instance, if there are skilled AWS or Azure cloud architects, what are some of the things that they are thinking about or challenges that they are facing as the organizations adopt a multi-cloud strategy?
I think, and great question there. And I mean, when we think about putting together curriculum on this, these are some of the areas that we're focused on too. So things like, top of mind, things like security, right? Environments are certainly more complex to secure than single cloud environments. And, what we're seeing, the cloud architects need to be aware of these different security risks associated with each cloud provider and how to mitigate those risks, right? So, top of mind there that I think. As well, maybe practitioners don't have to deal with as much, but certainly the enterprise does, whole elements of cost, right? Managing multiple clouds accounts can be challenging. and it can certainly be difficult to keep track of those costs. So, one of the roles of cloud architects as well, needing to be able to optimize costs across multiple cloud providers as well. A third area I think of that's top of mind, that again added to this complexity, the whole area of compliance, right? Organizations certainly need to ensure that their multi-cloud environment is complying with all different types of regulations that they fall under in different industries, countries, whatever. And again, that's adding again to the complexity here. Cloud architects needing to be familiar, right, with these different compliance requirements and how to meet those. And then the other piece there is just the standard, I think, daily things we think about, both with migration and management, right? Migrating workloads to multi-cloud environments can be certainly complex, time consuming. Again, the importance of having a plan, managing workloads here, and metrics to ensure successful migration. And then the management, just the day-to-day, right? Obviously, if you're managing multi-clouds, it's going to be much more complex than a single cloud here. So the importance of having tools, processes, clear procedures, and SOPs to manage these multi-clouds and multi-cloud accounts and workloads. So like anything, just the level of complexity, the level of planning, the level of just awareness of all these things just becomes incrementally more complex, moving from a single cloud to a multi-cloud environment.
So security, cost, compliance, migration and management.
Yeah. And I think, these are certainly areas that are top of mind, I think, when managing any cloud environment. But just I think the level of complexity and the importance of just planning, like I say, procedures, SOPs, on all that becomes even more important, let's say, in the multi-cloud environment.
I think these 5 areas totally just really clearly stand out when we have our customer roundtables as well, especially the order that you listed them in. Security and compliance, that's always probably at the top of mind for most of the people, most of the organizations, most of the C offices. How do we handle that in a multi-cloud environment? So what are some of the learning paths for these AWS and Azure cloud architects? And I'm assuming that since you highlighted these 5 areas, there are trainings and learning development that they can find in these 5 areas around multi-cloud.
Absolutely. And like I said at the beginning, we've always had, since our the start of cloud learning services, always had some kind of curriculum that helps learners that start with already familiar with AWS and Azure in order to understand Google Cloud. But they have been pretty lengthy, right? And so we did, as I outlined in my blog, we did some recent work and a new set of curriculum that really focus on the skilled Azure or AWS cloud architect looking to take the knowledge they already have and quickly expand it to that of Google Cloud. And it was really, taking advantage of what we know they know in the area of AWS or Azure, and then just help almost like with starting really with the decoder, right? We know you know this in the cloud that you work with. Let's just now apply that knowledge of the concepts and technologies you already know and translate that to Google Cloud, as well as getting hands-on, right, and helping with certain elements of practice building and managing Google Cloud resources. So we try to do 2 things with these, is really help, as I said, meet the learner where they are. These are the skilled practitioners. Help with that decoder concept, and then get into the technology pretty quickly, again, through the concept of learning, but then applying, right? So skill badges as well, in completing these training, because hands-on is a key component as well. So, the curriculum kind of big focus on mapping rather than introducing. Again, in the focus of, we know we're dealing with skilled professionals here, but then as well as, starting to create a well architected starting framework on Google Cloud. And then as well, getting some hands on with the Google Cloud infrastructure and those pieces as well.
So, Linda, how does this learning, I'm sure you're closer to this, how does this learning play a role in helping cloud professionals accelerate their careers, whether it's being more productive or even finding newer jobs? What are you seeing on the ground?
Got it. There's always been a little bit, I'll kind of be a little controversial, I guess, in that I understand, people talk about experience is much better than having a learning or a credential or a skill badge in some way. And I always like to think it's a combination of both, right? So I think focusing particularly on, people say, why take this course, these courses, why the importance of a skill badge? To me, it kind of just adds to marketability, right? You can share lots of experience and say, yes, I've worked on this, that, and the other. Here's my resume. You can see that I've been in these different pieces. But to me, some of these badges, credentials, and completing these programs can just give a little bit more gravitas and shows that, as well as proven experience, you can now demonstrate it with almost like a third-party validated badge, right? So it's a great way, I think, of demonstrating knowledge and skills, right? Because somebody knows, yeah, you've had to, going back to my concept here, you have a challenge, you've got to complete it. You either complete it successfully or you fail it, right? And so I think in many ways it can show colleagues, managers, potential employers, you have some knowledge and skills that you can, show here. It also helps you, I think, stand out from the competition, right? If you're going for thinking about your own careers, talking about the experience you have. If there's somebody with a similar amount of experience, but you've got, again, more formal learning and credentials and badges of some kind, it can also help you stand out in the, amongst the competition here. And so I think, why not? With this, it's not really why should you, it's why shouldn't you, right? Particularly when I think of the experience of practitioners out there. This stuff doesn't take days and days, weeks and weeks. Quite a fun way of just validating your knowledge is up to date. And you've kind of won a badge to validate that. And I think, in the process of this, sometimes we learn new things, right? We've always done it a certain way. Sometimes taking a training, and validating it through a skill badge can help you learn new skills, new ways to do things. And so I think there's a lot of value and credence in that as well. So ultimately, obviously, it's whether or not to do these badges, take formal courses, is definitely a personal choice for the experienced architect. But if you're looking to advance your career, I think it can't do anything but help.
That makes sense, Linda. Now, with Google Cloud Next coming up, I think we are all really excited gearing up towards that end of this month. What are some of the things that we can look forward to? Any new areas, trainings, learnings, anything that you can give us a sneak peek at?
Absolutely. Well, as you can imagine, Gen AI is a huge component of what we're doing at Next. So that definitely is one of the core aspects that you're going to see actually coming out of that event. Loads and loads of when learning is involved, lots and lots of hands-on capabilities there to try out. We're actually in learning. Putting together new labs that we've not had before, right? So some of these new labs and being able to participate in those, try them out, particularly around Vertex AI, That's a huge piece of what we're doing there. And then looking at those of you who can't come to next, we are, we'll then look at how we scale these, generally there in the marketplace after that. But next is the first time we're doing that. We have some cool, challenges with Drone Racing League is a huge part of it as well. We're offering certification for those who are research. We're trying something brand new that I'm excited about. Certification has often just been taking a test and formally, going to, in Google's case, criterion, getting a sense of scenarios and completing those. Is it scenario A, B, C, or D? And it hasn't really, aligned with our philosophy that we think the best learning is done by applying it and hands-on. So we are doing a kind of first public preview of our ACE recertification test, which is all hands-on. And I'm really excited by our first public preview of this. And again, we'll scale it later in the year. So those that aren't able to come to next, if you've already got ACE and you're looking at recertifying or renewing that, you have a really cool way of trying that out. And for us, it's a great way to say how to take certifications forward. So we're looking very much at these more innovative ways to validate skills in a much more fun way than taking tests and getting lots of hands-on doing the process as well. So yeah, I'm so excited, as well as all the phenomenal breakouts that we've had. It's going to be an exciting couple of days.
Thanks, Linda. So just quickly summarizing for our listeners, it was a really great conversation. Thank you for sharing all the insights from the learning perspective. What are some of the areas that you are prioritizing as a team? Because those are the trends you are observing in the enterprises. One of them being multi-cloud. There are a lot of multi-cloud training and courses out there, especially some of the areas that you highlighted around security, compliance, cost, and migration, which tend to be some of the top challenges that most organizations are facing when they adopt or start their multi-cloud journey. Rather, it's a journey, right? Everything is a journey. And absolutely. Thank you for sharing about the digital badges and why and how learning can help, and also what we can look forward to at next. Linda also wrote a really interesting and in-depth blog back in April, which we have already posted to this Twitter space for our listeners. So please go check it out, and it gives you a lot more details about the conversation that we had today. So Linda, last but the final question from my side: if our listeners who were on the call today, they want to get started, what's the first step that they can take towards advancing their multi-cloud skills, towards advancing their multi-cloud resume? What is the one thing that you will ask them to do? Maybe they can go to a link or read up something, but what is that first step that they can take?
I would definitely say check out Google Cloud Skill Boost, right? We've got a lot of good and great curriculum and hands-on labs out there. You can try, right? You can look at what are the areas that maybe I don't know as much about that can help round out my knowledge, my experience, because I know everybody starts from a different place, right? But I would definitely, highlight that as a great place to start. That's our Google Cloud Skill Boost platform, and really, take the opportunity there of, I would say, looking where you are and adding, right, and broadening and advancing your skill set. So that's the link that I would ask people to check out.
Thank you so much, Linda. This was a wonderful conversation, and I hope our listeners took away some really good takeaways on how they can advance their resume, advance their skills using all the resources that are out there. Thanks again for spending the time with us on Multicloud Mindset today.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Thank you, Linda. You too.
Bye.
Bye.